The stars burned quietly in the cold dark of space, indifferent to the ruin unfolding beneath them. Once glorious cities floated in silence, their broken towers drifting above planets scorched to cinder. Virex 9 had been a thriving trade hub, its orbit bustling with diplomatic vessels and merchant fleets. Now, its atmosphere was thick with ash and debris, its surface a wound glowing faintly with fire. A single escape shuttle limped away from the dying world, lights flickering as its systems faltered. Inside, a child cried softly, clutched to the chest of a grim-faced alien whose iridescent skin was scorched and cracked. Their ship was nearly out of fuel, barely functional. It didn't matter. There was nowhere left to run. The enemy had come suddenly, from deep space beyond any known chart, descending without parley, without declaration. The Zalari, a name given by scholars long dead, were not diplomats or conquerors. They were devourers. Organic machines, pulsing with bioluminescent energy, harvested living matter with methodical precision. No one knew why. Perhaps even they didn't. They swept across star systems like a sickness, converting entire biospheres into shrines of silence and death. All resistance had crumbled. The Tenari Republic fell within weeks. The Chalian Armada, once thought invincible, lost its final ship over the moons of Drez. The United Galactic Coalition, the greatest union of species the galaxy had known, shattered after the fall of Citadel Axis. Its last High Chancellor burned in orbit, her transmission still looping across the emergency channels. Survive, if you can survive. Aboard the shuttle, static broke the silence. The pilot, a weary Drevic engineer, leaned forward as a garbled transmission pushed through the background radiation. At first, it was unintelligible, then clearer. This is, yes, repeat, Leviathan, holding orbit over Virex 9. If any coalition assets remain, respond. The Drevic's hand trembled. He checked his instruments again. This was impossible. The humans were gone. Decades ago, at the edge of known space, humanity had faced the Zalari alone during the first wave of incursions. They were distant from the main galactic lanes, regarded as technologically primitive but curious. They had resisted with terrifying intensity, unleashing weapons a coalition had never seen, gravity-based singularity bombs, AI-led ghost fleets, orbital warp shields. And then they vanished, not conquered, not defeated, gone. Whispers remained. Stories of a last human ship disappearing into deep void, a vessel named Leviathan, powered by something ancient and forbidden. Most believed it a myth, a story told by exiled warlords and frightened smugglers. Until now, the shuttle's viewport lit up with sudden gold. Something vast moved beyond the clouds of Virex 9, parting the darkness like a blade. The Drevic's breath caught as it emerged. A vessel the size of a small moon, its hull smooth and white like bleached bone, bristling with lights. It made no sound, but its presence was deafening. It was not sleek, not beautiful. No artist would have imagined it. It was deliberate, monstrous in scale, an instrument of singular purpose. Its arrival triggered a distant shriek across subspace, a psychic keening the Drevic felt in his bones. The Zalari had noticed, and they were afraid. Inside the Leviathan, Captain Elias Ward watched the chaos unfold through a holographic display. His features were lined by years that hadn't passed normally. Cryocycles had preserved his body, but his eyes were older than they should be, tired, calculating, heavy with memory. "Signal sweep complete," said a synthetic voice beside him. "For surviving shuttles detected. Shall I open channels?" Ward didn't respond at once. He stared at the dying world below them. He remembered it, once lush, its skies of vibrant green. He had walked its surface, drank with its ministers, even danced beneath its twin moons. Now it was gone. "Open channel," he said. His voice echoed across the vacuum, reaching drifting vessels, damaged satellites, and old relay towers still hanging in orbit. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the UNS Leviathan. You are not alone. Fall back to our position. Medical and tactical support en route." One by one, green lights began to blink on the hollow display. Survivors, lighting up like dying embers trying to flare again. They were few, but they were there. Multiple Zalari signatures inbound, the AI intoned. Orbital convergence in 2 minutes. Ward turned toward the main viewport. His officers waited for his orders, some flesh and blood, some synthetic, others somewhere in between. Lieutenant Kale, his second-in-command, leaned forward, her crimson cybernetic eye flickering. "They'll want to test us," she said quietly. "They always do," Ward replied. "Let them." A fleet of Zalari frigates dropped from subspace in perfect unison, sleek and organic, bristling with energy tendrils. The swarm spread like a net, enclosing the Leviathan, seeking weaknesses, probing for response. But the ship didn't move. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then the Leviathan opened fire. There was no flash, no thunder, just a razor. A shimmering pulse rippled from the ship's midsection, and the leading wave of enemy ships collapsed inward, crushed by localized gravity wells. Another volley followed, streams of white light that pierced through Zalari hulls like paper, igniting their cores. One Zalari vessel reached within striking range, launched a bioplasmic torpedo, and watched it dissolve mid-flight as the Leviathan's defenses restructured the space around it, folding projectile into another dimension. Enemy forces retreating. Kale said, "They've never done that before." "They weren't built for fear," Ward replied. "Until now." He turned and walked from the bridge toward the ship's inner sanctum. As he moved, the walls pulsed faintly with life. This ship was more than a weapon. It was an echo of everything humanity had once been: brilliant, desperate, relentless. Inside a sealed chamber, a row of cryopods lined the wall. Each held a figure, some human, others alien, each marked with the insignia of old Earth's final alliance. He placed a hand against the glass of the last pod, where a woman slept, her expression calm. "We're back, Arya," he whispered. "They thought we were ghosts." Outside, the remnants of the Coalition ships began to form up near the Leviathan. Pilots and captains, once enemies, now sent coded requests for docking Alliance survival. They didn't know what humanity was. Not really. Most had never met a human in their lifetime. But they understood one thing now. The tide had turned, and the war was not yet over. The Leviathan drifted in high orbit above Virex 9, a quiet sentinel casting a long shadow over the broken world below. Its hull shimmered faintly in the light of the distant sun, its surface scarred but untouched by time. Inside, the ship thrummed with controlled energy, massive and ancient. It was more than a relic. It was alive, aware, and waiting. Captain Elias Ward stood alone in the observation chamber, his reflection barely visible against the curved glass that wrapped the room like a bubble. His uniform was matte black, unadorned, save for faded insignia on his chest, a crescent encircling a dying star, the symbol of Earth's last fleet. His fingers hovered above a control pad, pulling up archive data, signals, ship movements, old battle logs. Most of the screen was red. Losses, failures, silence. The door behind him hissed open. "You should rest," said Lieutenant Kale, stepping in with her usual quiet intensity. Her short-cropped hair gleamed silver beneath the chamber's ambient light. Her left eye, mechanical and fluidly adaptive, adjusted its aperture as she scanned the data flickering across the display. Ward didn't look at her. "I've slept enough for 50 years. That's cryo-sleep. It doesn't count." A flicker of amusement crossed his face, quickly gone. The Zalari withdrew faster than expected. They're adapting slower. They weren't ready for us. Kale crossed her arms. Or they were told we were extinct. Ward turned at that. That's the part one still don't understand. Why hide us for this long? Why bury the Leviathan in the Vesper Rift and leave us in stasis? Kale hesitated. Because we weren't ready. Another voice echoed through the room, smooth and emotionless. Because they weren't ready. The chamber dimmed, and a figure formed in the center, tall, indistinct, flickering with soft light. The ship's AI. It chose not to display a face, preferring abstraction. It had once had a name, but even Ward now called it simply Core. "The Zalari have changed," Core said. "But so have we. You asked me to wait until the equation favored us. That time is now." Ward turned back toward the window, the planet below burning at the edges like the wick of a candle. Then the war never ended. It was paused. It was delayed, Core replied, to ensure victory. The galaxy assumed humanity had been destroyed. That belief gave us time. Time to prepare? Kale asked. Time to evolve, Core said. Ward stepped back from the window and walked toward the central table. A holographic projection flared to life, showing systems fleets and red outlined sectors where Zalari hives had rooted deep. Their reach extended across the spiral arms, infecting dozens of star clusters. Give me an update on the survivors we brought in, Ward said. Kale stepped forward and began swiping through projections. We recovered 3 Drevig escape pods, a handful of Soul-Carry tech runners, and 1 rogue Mirren vessel, all critically undersupplied. They've been moved to Deck 9 for assessment. No viable combat units. They're just civilians, Ward said quietly. They're witnesses, Core corrected. Letting them go now would be tactically unwise. Ward didn't respond. He stared at the red glow of the enemy spread, then jabbed his finger into the image. The light rippled. What's this? He asked. Kale leaned in. System 843, our former UGC outpost. Long-range probes indicate a Zalari lattice forming, a new hive. They're expanding again, Ward muttered. Fast. Core pulsed. Faster than anticipated. They sense disruption. Their hive algorithms are accelerating adaptive mutations. This is a prelude to an offensive. And what's their target? Core paused. Us. Ward straightened. Of course. A silent alarm pulsed once, soft red, then faded. Kale tapped her wrist interface. We have visitors. 2 Coalition command vessels approaching. They're requesting boarding privileges and a conversation. Ward's jaw tightened. Which factions? Calyari diplomatic envoy, led by Lord Tevin, and a Soul-Carry tactician, Kiri Voss. The Soul-Carry still trust us? Ward raised an eyebrow. They don't, Kale said, but they fear the alternative more. Within the hour, the command bridge was filled with presence. The Calyari lord was tall and regal, skin a chameleon pattern of shifting golds and blues, eyes like molten glass. He wore ceremonial armor with deliberate pride, though the scars on his face told of real battles. Kiri Voss was more austere, her Soul-Carry robe patterned with neural-threaded lines that glowed faintly with her heartbeat. She moved like a blade, precise, measured, deadly. You're real, Tevin said first, voice like soft thunder. I half expected a ghost. Ward didn't smile. I get that a lot. Your arrival, Voss interjected, is not without consequence. The Zalari have altered formation. Their hive signals have gone dark. They're hiding now. That's not fear, Tevin said. It's calculation. You've drawn their attention. Ward stepped down from the command platform, his footsteps echoing across the chamber. Then it's time the galaxy stopped hiding. Is this arrogance? Voss asked, or grief disguised as valor? It's necessity, Kale answered before Ward could speak. They don't know how to retreat. You've tried diplomacy, alliances, peace accords. They burn everything. You assume we need your help now, Tevin said, narrowing his alien eyes. But we remember your silence. When Earth fell, you vanished. You left the rest of us to burn. Ward's voice turned low. We were ordered to disappear. By whom? By something older than any of us, Ward said, almost too quietly. Our final war council believed humanity was too dangerous to remain active, that in trying to stop the Zalari, we might become something worse. So they buried us. Voss studied him carefully. And now, Ward gestured to the stars beyond the viewport. Now the galaxy is dying anyway. You can follow us, or follow the swarm. There was a long silence, broken only by the soft hum of the Leviathan systems. Tevin finally spoke. Our ships are fragmented, our leaders scattered. But if you mean to fight, we will listen. Voss nodded. We do not forget what humans are. We remember your fire. Light it again. Ward gave a sharp nod. Then gather the remnants. The resistance starts here. As the alien commanders departed to relay the call, Ward remained alone on the bridge. Core pulsed beside him. Quiet. "Do you trust them?" it asked. "No," Ward said. "But they don't have to trust me. They just have to survive long enough to see what's coming." Beneath them, in the ship's lower decks, the Leviathan systems began to hum louder. Weapons that had not been used in a century flickered online. Forgotten data vaults opened. Armories lit up. Training protocols reinitialized. And far beyond the edge of known space, in the cold quiet between galaxies, the Zalari Queen opened her massive, multi-limbed body and released a signal. One that hadn't been used in centuries. One that meant threat. One that summoned something older, buried even deeper than Leviathan. The galaxy had awakened a sleeping force, but it had also stirred its nightmares. Aboard the Leviathan, the vast corridors pulsed with renewed energy as long-dormant systems came alive. Decks once sealed by dust and code were opened. Vaults of weaponry, strategic AIs, and neural interface pods blinked awake like ancient guardians shaking off a long slumber. The crew, sparse but sharp, moved with quiet purpose. Soldiers pulled from cryo, engineers brushing frost from consoles, tacticians aligning star maps that hadn't been updated in centuries. The war was no longer history. It was prophecy. Captain Ward moved with precision through the ship's command spine, flanked by Kale and a newly awakened unit, Commander Reza Valen. Valen was thickly built, with cybernetic grafts running along the right side of the skull. His voice edged with static when he spoke. A relic of Earth's final wars. He was a weapon in human form, and he moved like he was already in combat. "Systems are sinking," Valen said, "but we got legacy interference in the lower bays. The drone wings are reading corrupted code. Something's nested in the old circuits." "Sabotage?" Ward asked. "More like decay. Time's teeth. I'll send in a crawl team." Kale frowned. "We don't have time to clean every deck." Ward nodded. "Then prioritize what breathes and what fires." In the central war chamber, the Coalition's fractured pieces were beginning to align. Ships limped in from dark sectors. Frigates without weapons. Cruisers patched with scavenged hulls. Refugee transports rigged with jury-rigged engines. The Leviathan's broadcast had traveled fast. Hope traveled faster. From the elevated strategy platform, Kiri Voss surveyed the incoming ships with a measured gaze. Her neural-robed interface with a display grid, warping the holographic star chart into fluid patterns only she could fully decipher. Tevin stood beside her, his gold-blue skin dimmer now, the weight of command evident in the slump of his shoulders. "They follow you," Voss said without looking at Ward as he entered. "Not because they believe you'll win, but because they fear what happens if you don't." Ward stared at the scattered ships. Fear's a good motivator, but it burns out quick. "Then feed it something else." Tevin said, "Give them blood." Ward stepped forward, activating the map. "Core, overlay Zari Hive pattern from the last 6 cycles." The chart blinked, and red tendrils spread across it like a disease. The swarm had grown, not just in numbers, but in strategy. Their lattice movements weren't random. They mirrored something older, something primal. "They're circling the Hadari expanse," Kale noted. "That's where the signal originated." "The Queen," Voss said softly. Ward nodded. "She's there, and if we take her out." "She reforms," Tevin interrupted. "You don't kill a hive by cutting off the head. You just make it mad." Ward turned to Core. "What if we didn't try to kill her? What if we pulled her out?" The AI flickered, considering. "You mean bait her?" Valen stepped forward. "How?" Ward exhaled. "The Leviathan. She was built to be noticed, built to frighten." Kale's eyes narrowed. "You want to provoke the swarm?" "I want them to come to us," Ward said. "On our terms." "Then we need terrain," Voss added, "and allies that can hold it." Tevin pointed at the chart. "There's an old ring world near the edge of the Hadari system. Inactive, but massive. Enough surface area for full deployment." Kale tapped her interface. "It was used as a test site. It's still rigged with ancient defense arrays. We could rearm it." "Then that's where we bleed them," Ward said. The decision rippled outward. Commands were issued. Fleets rerouted. The coalition, such as it was, began to coalesce around the plan. The ring world, code-named Asphodel, became the crucible. In the hours that followed, Ward stood once more in the observation chamber, watching Asphodel rise from the void like a forgotten god. It was massive, an artificial halo surrounding a star long since collapsed into a blue dwarf. Its surface gleamed with decay, but its bones were still strong. An ancient monument built by a race even older than humanity, long gone and barely remembered. Their legacy now a battlefield. Kale joined him again, silent at first. "Do you think it will work?" she asked. "No," Ward said, "but that doesn't mean it won't." She looked at him sideways. "You're not inspiring much confidence." "I'm not trying to," he said. "I'm trying to keep us alive." There was a long pause. "You're different," she said finally. "Since the sleep?" Ward nodded. "I remember what came before too clearly. That clarity, it doesn't inspire hope, just urgency." Kale sighed, then reached into her coat and pulled out a small black cube. She handed it to him. "What's this?" "A message, recorded by Admiral Saren before she initiated the cryolock. It's encrypted. Only your code can unlock it." Ward stared at it, the weight of it sudden in his hand. Saren had been a commanding officer, his mentor, and the last voice he'd heard before being frozen in time. He hadn't thought about her in years. Couldn't afford to. He tucked the cube into his belt. Later. Kale didn't push. She nodded and walked away. In the darkness of space, the swarm stirred. Signals flashed between hives, encrypted pulses of war thought and movement. The Queen's brood responded, and the outer clusters began to shift. A tremor of purpose flowed through them. They moved toward Asphodel, like a tide drawn to gravity. On the ring world, the Leviathan anchored itself to the main defense node. Energy cannons recharged for the first time in millennia. Coalition ships aligned in tight formations, each captain aware that retreat wasn't an option. This would be a stand or a grave. As Ward walked onto the command deck, one last time before battle, he paused. "Core," he said quietly. "Yes, Captain. You've always followed logic. Tell me, what are our chances?" 36% victory, 40% tactical stalemate, 24% annihilation. Ward grunted. "Optimistic. I didn't include the wild card," Core added. "What wild card?" "You," the AI replied. "And the thing that still sleeps beneath this ring." Ward turned sharply. "What thing?" But the lights dimmed. A low hum began to build across the ship. And far below, in Asphodel's core, something ancient stirred, responding not to Zalari signals, but to human ones. Something buried by design. The true weapon was not the ship, nor its crew. It was a forgotten echo of something humanity had feared to wake. And now it was listening. The silence before battle was deceptive. It draped Asphodel in a solemn calm, as though the ancient ring world understood the magnitude of what was about to unfold. From the outer curve to the hidden depths of its central spine, the structure buzzed with reactivation. Energy lines once thought corroded blinked alive. Defensive towers extended like spears reaching for stars, and magnetic shields hummed, drawing power from a collapsed blue dwarf at its core. The Leviathan stood at the heart of it all, more fortress than ship now, integrated into the ring's ancient defense grid like a keystone locking a great gate. Captain Ward sat alone in the command chamber, his eyes locked on the black cube Kale had given him. The silence within the room was broken only by the steady pulse of the ship's systems and the occasional distant rumble of docking operations. He placed the cube onto the terminal and keyed in his override. The hologram that appeared was flickering, aged. Admiral Saren's face emerged, older than he remembered, tired yet resolute. She spoke directly, as though she knew he'd be the one to hear it. "If you're seeing this, Elias, then the war didn't end the way we hoped. You've awakened too early, or maybe just in time. The truth was never in the official logs, not in the mission files or cryo orders. I left it with you, hidden in a layer even Core couldn't decrypt." The image blurred for a moment, then resumed. "We buried something under Asphodel, not a weapon in the traditional sense. It's a relic from the Genesis Wars, before the Zalari, before the unified galactic charter. A singularity-bound intelligence built to resist extinction. We couldn't control it. We couldn't destroy it. So we sealed it inside the ring and placed a condition on its release. It only responds to one kind of signal. Ours. Saren's eyes darkened. It's a mirror, Elias. It adapts to what it sees. And it remembers pain. The message ended. Ward didn't move. The command deck remained unchanged, but the temperature seemed colder. He knew now what Core had meant. The wild card wasn't just humanity. It was a thing humanity had chosen to forget. The door hissed open behind him. Kale stepped in, her expression tight. Scouts report first contact. The swarm's vanguard is approaching fast. Estimated 30 minutes. Ward stood, pocketing the cube. Sound general readiness. Full deployment. And activate the vault beneath the ring. Kale blinked. You're serious. I am, Ward said, already walking toward the central lift. We didn't come this far to die with secrets still buried. On the outer ring, coalition ships aligned into a defensive phalanx. The Sulcari deployed shield webs between frigates, while Cagliari beam towers anchored the flanks. Drones swept the vacuum, transmitting data in coordinated arcs. Fighters from a dozen species took flight, like a unified swarm of their own, tracing pale lines against the black sky. In the distance, the Zalari came. No engines, no heat trails, just movement, like a living shadow washing over stars. The Hive ships pulsed with sickly bioluminescence, their hulls made of bone and chitin, reshaping mid-flight. The Queen's signal crackled across frequencies, pressing on the minds of even those not attuned to it. A collective scream. A hunger. Inside Asphodel, the vault opened. Deep below the surface, behind triple-sealed quantum locks, an obsidian chamber breathed. It hadn't done so in eons. Ward entered alone, descending into the dark, his boots clanking against metal older than Earth itself. The walls shimmered with fractal light, images of forgotten wars, dead stars, dying gods. At the chamber's center stood a structure that looked less like a machine and more like a thought given form, shifting geometry, constantly folding in on itself, impossibly silent. Ward approached and spoke one word. Awaken. The room didn't respond in sound but in feeling. A pulse echoed outward, gravitational, mental, emotional. Somewhere, Core shuddered. Outside, the battle began. The first wave of Zalari slammed into the coalition line. Ships exploded in silence, fire blooming in vacuum. Fighters twisted through enemy formations, striking soft tissue with precision. But for every kill, two more emerged. The Hive adapted on the fly, growing armor, changing formations, mimicking tactics. The outer defensive layer began to fold. Ward emerged back on the command deck, just as Core's voice rang sharp. The vault has been compromised. Energy spike in Sector 7. Something is moving. I know, Ward said. Redirect it. To where? To her. In the heart of the Zalari swarm, the Queen stirred. Massive and terrible, her body coiled around a biothrone of pulsating flesh. She felt the shift before her drones did. A signal, old and human, singing with rage and memory. It pierced the Hive Mind like a blade, and for the first time in centuries she paused. The relic was awake. Back on Asphodel, the battlefield changed. From the center of the ring, a new form emerged, lightless, soundless, but consuming everything it touched. A shape like thought, flowing like water, tearing into Zalari ships without a single shot fired. It absorbed them, restructured them. Learning, Kale watched the feeds with barely veiled awe. What is it doing? Ward didn't blink. Becoming. Valen's voice crackled through the channel. We're losing control of the outer flank. Ward turned to Kale. By the relic time, draw them inward, force them into range. She didn't hesitate. Orders flew out. The Leviathan rotated, channeling power into Asphodel's ancient energy cores. Fusion beams lit up, cutting arcs through the swarm. The coalition ships closed ranks, sacrificing breath for resilience. The relic expanded, now forming tendrils that reached through enemy formations like roots through soil. Then the Queen moved. She abandoned the safety of her throne, her colossal form descending toward the ring world like an eclipse. Her scream fractured comm systems. Biolasers ripped through friendly lines. The battlefield tilted, the swarm rallying around her. Ward gritted his teeth. Core, focused the relic. Force interface with the Queen. Core hesitated. Unknown outcome. No predictive model exists. Then we make one. The relic obeyed. It surged upward, intercepting the Queen mid-descent. Their collision was soundless but seismic. The Queen's body lashed out, hurling gravitational bursts. The relic reformed around each strike, adapting, countering, mimicking. The Queen grew new limbs. The relic grew faster. They spiraled in a dance of destruction, shaking the stars. Ward watched it unfold, something in him both afraid and proud. "This is it," he whispered. "The end of one era or the start of another." As the two titans clashed, a blinding pulse erupted from the center, and all sensors went dark. The battlefield fell into momentary silence. Ships drifted. Drones stuttered. Even the Zalari froze. Then light returned. The Queen was gone. In her place, the relic hovered, changed. Where before it had been alien and unknowable, now it bore aspects of both foes. A hybrid, a weapon forged in combat. It hovered above Asphodel, silent, no longer attacking. Kale's voice broke the stillness. "Is it over?" Ward stared at the screen. "No, it's watching." On the edge of the battlefield, the remnants of the Zalari fleet retreated, directionless, Hive Mind fractured. Coalition ships regrouped, battered but intact. The silence that followed was not peace. It was anticipation. The relic had not disappeared.